Hello, Victory family. I hope you're doing well. Today is day 4 in our fast. The title of this devotion is Let Your Hunger Serve You. So it might be a good reminder that fasting is God's idea, and fasting for a specific and significant purpose. If you don't have a specific purpose, it becomes a drudgery. So if you haven't picked out something specific to contend for, let me suggest you choose something that's near and dear to your heart. Maybe it's praying for your spouse. Well, if you have one, and maybe prayer for a spouse if you don't. Or maybe it's something serious like the salvation of a family member or a friend, or maybe you're contending for a healing for somebody, or maybe a deliverance for a loved one. But remember, make it near and dear to your heart, and then let your physical hunger pains serve you. So, Glenn, what do you mean by serve you? Well, what I mean is that instead of letting your hunger pains or cravings remind you of how difficult it is, and you're saying, when is this fast going to end? This is only day 4. Instead of that, turn it around and make your cravings for your benefit. Harness those feelings as a reminder to spur you on and give you incentive to really press in and contend for that breakthrough. When you have a specific purpose in your fasting, every one of those hunger pains or cravings will remind you of why you're fasting. And then that'll lead you into intensifying your prayer for that purpose. No matter what form of fasting yours looks like, whether it's a full-on water-only fast, or maybe it's a Daniel fast, or maybe you're just skipping one meal a day, it doesn't matter, because when you think about it, you're still experiencing that lack of being fully satisfied. And that'll be the indicator that propels you into prayer. Another aspect of fasting is that it's God-focused. We're not to put this spiritual discipline on display for others. The Gospel of Matthew chapter 6, verses 14 through 18 records Jesus teaching his disciples that, quote, "When you fast, don't look gloomy like the hypocrites, for they disfigure their faces and show men that they're fasting, that they might be seen by others. Truly I say to you, they have received their reward. But when you fast, anoint your head, wash your face, that your fasting may not be seen by others, but by your Father who is in secret. And your Father who sees in secret will reward you." See, later on in Matthew, specifically Matthew 9:14 through 17, we can see that the religious spirit is on full display. We pick up the story right after Jesus called Matthew to follow him. The Pharisees are quick to point out that a righteous man would not be eating with tax gatherers and sinners. And Jesus quickly answers them by saying, it's the sick who need a physician, not the righteous. But then they really get to the real root of the issue in their heart. These groups are currently fasting, and they're probably hungry at this point. And they see Jesus and his disciples feasting on delicious food with a tax gatherer and his sinner friends. It's amazing how people who hate each other will suddenly become allies when the religious structure and self-righteousness is challenged. What an amazing sight to see the disciples of John the Baptist and the disciples of the Pharisees suddenly come together and attack the disciples of Jesus. They not only had a critical spirit, but they also had a spirit of jealousy, because there was freedom that they were viewing right there in front of them. So what can we learn from this? When we're fasting, just might be a religious spirit of comparison or of jealousy or of self-righteousness or even judgment that comes into our mind that we need to deal with in our own hearts. Remember, this is a time of denying your natural hunger to serve your spiritual hunger. When you do this, Jesus teaches you that your Heavenly Father does take notice. He looks and sees what you're doing in secret. And if your motivation is pure, He says He will reward you for your dedication. Now, it should go without saying that we don't fast for a reward, but God does promise a reward if we set aside our normal daily eating routine and seek Him first above our natural cravings. So as you go throughout this day, remind yourself that every time your stomach growls, every time you feel a little uncomfortable, you feel those hunger pains, that your hunger is there to serve you and remind you that you have a higher purpose this week, and it surpasses your desire to satisfy your hunger cravings. So may God continue to give you grace, strength, and resolve to press into all that He has put in your heart for this fast. And may your hunger pains serve you well.